Hey everybody. So I bought a membership to this website, blackjackapprenticeship.com. Because I saw a video, I forgot who it was, but he has a lot of subs, a YouTuber who counts cards, and he actually makes videos. Stephen Bridger. And he's really good. He has good content. But he shows you when he goes into the casino what happens. A lot of times he gets backed off. And I'll explain more about that later. But I used to play blackjack when I was younger. And when I learned the odds of blackjack, I stopped playing it because I'm like, you can't win. Even though you think you can win, the odds are against you, unless, of course, you count cards. So there's a website that I joined. I don't know if you can join it for free. I think you could join it for free, but I don't know if you can get all the, there's training videos and like all this stuff. So I paid the membership. It's a 1 year. And it's helped me get started. I don't think I needed this website, but it just motivated me because everything's all set up. Like the video course was good because they go through like all the, different scenarios, what to hit, what to stay on, how to act in the casino, which is pretty helpful. I think the training suite was good. That was probably the most benefit. And I'll show you how to count cards. It's actually really easy. And I tried to do it when I was younger, but I never really got into it. I'll show you but before you count, you have to memorize basic strategy. You have to memorize what to always hit on, stay or split. That's a minimum because oftentimes when the count is not in your favor, you have to play basic strategy. Here, and I put this together, this chart, because I wanted to, when I print it, I want it to look nice. And also by rewriting it, it just helps me kind of ingrain it. So, but leave a comment if you have questions. But if you play blackjack, I'm sure it's pretty straightforward. So if your hand, I'll just tell you how the chart works. And I could email it to you. I mean, you can find it anywhere on online, basic strategy, blackjack chart. You can Google it. So if you have, for instance, a 9, so like you have a 5 of hearts, and a 4 of diamonds, for example, because you always give me 2 cards in blackjack to start. So if you have a 9, and the dealer, you always see, at least the American rules, there's one card that's up, the dealer's up card, and then one card that's down. So you always see one card. So if the dealer has a 2 showing, you hit that. If the dealer has a 3 showing, you double down, which means you hit and you only get one card. But you have to double your bet. So if you bet your $50, you can double down and put another 50 up. And then the dealer would give you one more card, just one more card. You could double for less. So if you have $50, your original bet, you could double for like 30, for instance. You would just get one card though. So if you had like this hand, 5 of hearts, 4 of diamonds, dealer had a 3 showing, you double down, and then the dealer flipped over a 3 of diamonds, that's your hand. You can't do anything else. So you have to stick with the 12 when you double down. So it gives you, so this is like at a minimum, you have to memorize this chart. Then this gives you the best odds. So if you play perfect basic strategy, I can't remember what the odds are, but I think it's kind of like you have a 49% chance of winning, something like that. And the house has a 51% chance of winning. Okay. Okay, odds playing perfect basic strategy. I think it might actually be higher than 49%. Okay, if you use a perfect blackjack strategy, the house edge is 0.5%. So it's so your chance of winning by playing perfect strategy is 49.5%, and the house is obviously 50.5%. Okay. So once you master basic strategy, and it does take a little bit to memorize every scenario. That's why this website is good, because you can do they could just give you hands, and if you get it wrong, they'll let you know. So a 5 and a 5 is a hard 10. So you would double. If I got it wrong, it would pop up. Like you always double a hard 11 no matter what. So I'm gonna say hit. It's gonna say wrong. You should double. You just play this drill over and over and over. You could just do it at home too, but you need somebody there to correct you, unless you have the paper in front of you. So a hard 12 against an 8, you would obviously hit it. So once you memorize this chart, because oftentimes you have to use basic strategy, because even if you count, unless the count is totally in your favor, you're not gonna. It's not gonna matter. You can't really. So this is how it pretty much works. So if you so these cards are +1. These cards are +1. These cards are 0. And these cards are -1. And it's pretty simple. It's like 3rd or 4th grade math. The hard part is obviously keeping track of it all in your head, and if people are talking to you, like the dealer or other people, it gets hard to concentrate. So I'll just show you an example. It's easiest to group together the 2 cards, because usually when you see it visually, you see each player has 2 cards. So I tried it both ways, but I think it's easy to group it together. So say this is the dealer deals these 2, 4, 6 hands, and you're one of the hands table. So if you just go through it, and sometimes you cancel the hands out. In this case, actually, there's no cancellation. But if somebody had an ace and a 2, you just ignore it, because the ace is -1, the 2 is +1, so it's just a 0. I just copied this from the internet somewhere. I just Googled blackjack. So this first hand is a -1. because the queen is -1. 8 is a 0. You ignore it. So this first hand's a -1. The second hand is also -1 because a 10 is -1. You ignore the 8. King is -1. You ignore the 7. Jack and queen, that's -2. King is -1. You ignore the 9. And the 9 and 8, you ignore totally. So -1, -2, -3, -5, -6. So this is your count at this point, -6. And then every single time, like if somebody hit on a hand, all these are high hands, but if somebody got dealt like a 2 and a 7, for instance, so they have a 9, then they would hit on that. And if they say your count is -6, and say they hit that and they got a 3, now you'd have to add 1. So in your head, you're like, okay, -5, because -6 plus 1 is -5. And say they got another 3. Now in your head, you're like, okay, I'm at -5 plus 1 -4. That's the hard part. I'll show you on the website. Maybe I'm not promoting the website either. I don't really get anything if you joined. I was playing fast, so I have to count faster. But let me just show you in slow mode. Too bad the website only deals one hand at a time, but I'll just show you. So they're dealing to us. So once I see these two, I'm like +1. And then I see the ace. So now I'm at 0. Not king, now I'm at -1. +1, 0. So the running count is 0. So I'll submit it. 0. See, it didn't give me an error message. So I'm at 0. I usually wait for the 2 cards. Now +1, back to 0, -1. No, I mean 0. See how hard it is? So it's still at 0. Oh, I got it wrong. Okay, so I'm at -1. Let me do it faster. It's so slow. Okay. So I'm at -1, right? So now 0, 1, 2, 1, 2. So I'm at 2, right? 2. And then it's going to deal. I'll wait for the 2 cards to come out. Now I'm at 0, -1. So -1. Talking when I went to the casino to people to try to blend in, and I kept losing the count. So I'm at -2. Now -4, -3, -2, -1, 0. So I'm at 0. Okay. 1. Well, I'll ignore that. That's a wipeout. So -1, -2, -3, -2. So -2. I'll ignore that. -3, -2, -3, -3. So I'm at -3, my running count. I'll take it a next step further. -2, -3. Are you with me? Submit -3. Let me change the settings. It's kind of slow still. So I'm at -3. +2. So -1. Ignore. -1. 0, 1, 2, 1. So I'm at +1. I'm at +1. Ignore -1, because I was at +1 and there was 2 high cards. So +1 minus 2 is -1. See, it gets kind of confusing after a while. -1. I could ignore that. Now I'm at 0. 0 minus 2, that was just 2 picture cards, so -2. This is all you do all day at the casino. -4, -5, -5. -4, -3, -2, cancel, cancel, -2. Okay, I think you get the idea, right? You keep the running count. And so let me go back to so the reason the high cards are negative is because those are good for us. And the reason the low cards are positive is because they're bad for us. So the more high cards in the deck, the more it shifts towards us being able to win. So like, let's just say a ton of 2 through 6s came out and the count was like positive, like 25. So the count was like positive 25. This is a huge, we have a huge advantage. Not a huge advantage. We have an advantage. We're more likely to win than the house. Because when there's a lot of these cards are gone, 2 through 6, and a lot of these cards are remaining, Jack through Ace, it gives us the advantage. Somebody leave a comment, because I feel like no one's here, even though I see people viewing this. I mean, it's pretty simple why we have the advantage. So, but take a step back. Why does the house have the advantage? How come the house is, even if you play perfect strategy, even if you play perfectly, you only have a you have a 49.5% chance of winning if you play perfectly. But why would it not be 50-50? Because you're getting the same exact cards as the dealer is. It's not like the dealer gets special cards. So how come they have the advantage? There's only really one reason they have the advantage. Another reason people lose money is like the house has infinite money. You don't have infinite money. You have a finite amount of money. You have like $500 or $1,000. So once you lose that, you're gone usually. The house can just stay forever in theory until you run out of money. But that's not why. The reason they have the advantage is because you can bust before they bust. That's the only advantage the house has. So in blackjack, everybody gets dealt, and the dealer has that one card up. So not that you would hit say you hit the 17, which no one would do, but say you hit the 17 and you got a 6, right? You would get 23 and you would bust. The dealer would take your money. And then it would go to the next person and they would play their hand. The next person, this is the last person to play. And then a dealer plays their hand. So if the dealer does bust, you don't get your money back. The dealer keeps your money. So that's the only advantage the house has, is that if you bust, you lose your money, even if the dealer busts. but you don't know if the dealer will bust or not because it hasn't gotten to them. Because if you see like the dealer, let me get a better picture. Can someone comment? It makes me feel a lot better, so I know someone's here. Why don't they just have like a normal blackjack table? Like, why do they have all these stupid? Okay, here we go. Perfect. Finally. So here's a normal blackjack table. With the dealer's card. So the dealer has the 8. And what they do is they do one card to each person. Then the dealer gets their card. Then they deal their second card to each person. Then the dealer gets a down card. And then the dealer goes to this person first, the person on the left. They would do nothing because they got blackjack. So they automatically win 150% of their investment. So if this person put up $50, they would get 50 plus 25. So they would keep their 50 plus they would get $75. Then this person would go. They have a 7. So they would hit a 7 no matter what the dealer had. So they have a 7. The dealer would say, "What do you want to do?" The person would say, "Hit." So if they hit and they got a jack, now they have 17 and they would stand. This person has a 20, so they would stand. This person has it looks like a 12. Yeah, 6 and 6 is 12. It's a little grainy. So let's say they hit and they got a king. So they would have 22. Yeah, that is 6 and 6. So they would have 22 and the dealer would take their chips. And they lose a hand. But let's say it got back to the dealer after everybody went, and the dealer has an 8 on top. And let's say they flipped over and it was an 8 on the bottom as well. Well, obviously, if you knew that, if you knew there was an 8 on the bottom, you probably wouldn't have hit that. But you don't know what's on the bottom. You always assume it's a 10. So say the dealer has an 8 in the bottom, 16. The rule is they have to hit a 16. And then say they had a third 8. So they have 24, they bust. But the thing is, when they bust, they pay everybody that didn't bust. Doesn't matter what you have. Like if this person had a 7 and they just stayed on a 7, which no one would do, but let's say they stayed in a 7. They're like, I'm not doing anything. So if the dealer got a 24, they would get paid. They would win a hand. So that's the only advantage the house has, is that if you both bust, you lose your investment, where the house doesn't. So that's the only advantage. But also when counting cards, you have to make sure you're playing at a table that's 3-2 blackjack, because that's the biggest advantage for counting cards. Because there's now a lot of casinos are doing 6-5 blackjack wins. So if you get blackjack, you get paid 6-5. So if you had a $50 bet and you hit blackjack, the dealer will give you $60. Where in a good casino with this 3-2, $50 bet, you would be given $75. So that just leads. So that's one of the biggest benefits of counting cards, because when it's real heavy with Jack, Queen, King, Ace, your probability of a blackjack goes up a lot. And when you get a blackjack, you get paid 3-2. And so say you put $100 on you bet $100 and you got blackjack, you would get $150. But let's say you put $100 and you get like a 19, and the dealer gets blackjack. The dealer doesn't get more money from you. They just get their original bet. So that's the benefit. So when you get blackjack, you get paid a premium. You get paid 150% of your bet. But if the dealer gets a blackjack, they only get your money, unless of course you also get a blackjack. Then it's a break even. So even if you count cards and the count gets real high, like 25, 30, you're not like a lock to win. You're just like a 50, maybe 2% chance of winning, or 53% chance of winning. So you would want to bet more money when the count gets real high. So that's the part about counting, is that you need a pretty significant bankroll, because even if you have the odds are you're going to win, like you're a 52% chance of winning, you could still lose. You can lose 10 times in a row, even at 52%. Even if you a 90% chance of winning, you could still lose like 3 times in a row. It's unlikely if you're 90% chance of winning, but it could happen. You have to play the odds. But in the long run, that's why casinos make money, because in the long run, casinos will make money from people. In a short term, nobody knows. Casino could win, you could win. But if you play long enough, you'll eventually lose all your money, unless you have a strategy like this. Anybody just comment, say something, so I know someone's here. So the only additional thing is you have to apply the count to the number of cards left in the shoe. So if you were playing at a 6-deck shoe, which means, thank you. Thanks for, I get all paranoid like no one's here, even though I see people here. But ask questions, because I'm learning too. I just bought this course a couple of weeks ago, but I played a ton of blackjack, so I already knew it. But I'm just doing this video so I can like talk about it, and hopefully I'll remember it more when I go to the casino. But anyways, so if you're playing in a 6-deck shoe, right? And after one deck has been dealt, right? And it's hard to know exactly, but that I'm saying after 52 cards have been kind of dealt out, that means there's 5 decks left, right? And you're keeping the count throughout. So let's say the count is 10. I'll do a little grid here. And this is kind of what you have to do in your head. Decks count. So if there's 5. So you have to apply the count to the number of decks. And then you get the true count, which is what everybody calls it. So the true count. The true count is the count divided by the number of decks. I'll bring it out a decimal, because you always round down with a true count. In this case, it's exactly 2. So you could come up with your own betting strategy, but this is how I do it. Even though I've counted once, officially counted. I played a lot of blackjack, but I officially counted last weekend at the casino, and I won $400. And I don't think that's because I counted. I think I got a little lucky. But I did count because I want to try to practice. So if I was playing $15 minimum, because I didn't want to like lose like a ton of money. So let's say your bet, let's just keep whatever your bet is. Obviously it has to be at the table minimum. You can't bet $5 if the minimum of table is 15. Like let's say your bet as soon as you start the game is $25. So I would say if the true count is 2, I would just do 2 times your bet. And if the true count is 3, I would do 3 times. You come up with your own betting strategy. So that's just pretty much how I would do it. True count is 4. I would do 4 times your base bet. And so on and so forth. Generally, the count doesn't get that high where it's like 6, 7, 8, 9. Usually once it hits like 5, it kind of like, because eventually you're going to see a lot of picture cards and the count's going to come down. So that's a good strategy. As long as you're increasing your bet when the count gets in your favor, that's the goal. And you could kind of refine this as time goes on. And I didn't see actually that much information on the website about betting. It seemed like they were leaving that up to you, but and if you're playing like this strategy, like if you're playing perfect basic strategy and you're counting and you're applying the true count, then you can you can kind of move it towards your favor. But you have to play a long time, because one session you could still lose. Even 10 sessions you could lose, but in the long run you should win if you have a 51, 52% chance of winning. So it's something like, I've seen like, if you play enough hours, you can average like $100 an hour. I don't know the exact. So let's say, I'm just going from what I remember. Let's say that's $80 an hour. If you're playing $25, your base bet is $25. Obviously, but the more you play, like for instance, if your base bet was $100, 4x, then your hourly rate is $320. But you have to put a lot of cash up. Not a lot of people, because you might lose a few sessions. Hopefully in the beginning you don't lose, but if you do lose in the beginning, you're gonna have to fund your bankroll until you start winning. But eventually you should win, because it's kind of like I said, even if you have like a 55% chance of winning something, you would bet on that all day long, right? And eventually you're going to make money. You might possibly lose money in a short term or over like a 1 or 2 day period. So the more money you have. So getting back to the true count. So say this, it starts at 6 decks, the shoe, and you feel they dealt about 1 deck out. But let's say the true count is still 10, but there's about 4 decks left in the shoe. Like you see, you want to look at the shoe, and it's hard to count every single card. But you kind of have to kind of estimate these things. So 4 decks left, true count is still 10. So now count is still 10, the running count, and the true count is 2.5, but usually round down. So technically it's still a 2. You generally round down. But let's say it's getting closer to the end of the shoe. And even though you started with 6 decks, there's only 2 decks remaining, and it's still a 10. The count's 10. But the true count now went up way up to 5, because there's so few decks left. There's only 2 decks, and the true count is 5, meaning there's a lot of jack, queen, king, and aces in the shoe that the dealer has to deal out. And also another benefit of having more high cards is that it's predictable. So if the dealer is showing a 6, there's a higher probability there's a 10 beneath that 6. And if that is true, there is a 10 beneath the 6. and a deal flips it over, there's a higher probability the deal will bust. Meaning the deal has 16. If they get 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, they'll bust. But if you're watching this, you might already know. Does anybody know how to count? But that's pretty much it's pretty much that simple. But I tell you, the first 4 or 5 shoes, I just kept losing the count. I was like the first shoe, I was like the first time I was trying to count, so I wasn't that comfortable. So I don't think I counted at all. Then the second shoe, I started counting, and then I forgot to count. I totally forgot about it because I was trying to blend in, so they wouldn't think I was counting. And I probably didn't even need to do that because but yeah, so this website, I don't remember what we're at. So running count 0. Okay, so it's -2. So I'll just show you how on this website how it works. So we're at -2. So I would ignore that. -3, -4. So -4. So the count's not in our favor. So we want to keep the betting at a minimum. When it gets to a positive, so -5, -4, and I would ignore those two because that's a wash, -4. And actually, last weekend, I was counting every single card that they dealt out. So I was like in my head, -4, -3, -2, -4, -2. I was just going, and then I think it's going to be easier to match the two cards together. So -4, -2, and that was +2. So we're back at 0. So we're at 0. I would ignore that. Ignore that. When I say ignore, because there's a positive and negative, so in my mind, I don't even do anything about it. So we're back at -1. So -1, ignore, -2. It seems easy when you're at home, when you're relaxed. So -2, -3, because there was a -1 up here and there was a wash here. So -3. So -3, ignore, -4. So -4. When I see 7, 8, 9, I don't even do anything. I just totally block it out. What did I say? -4? Yeah, -4. -3 plus 2, -1. Let me go to a 9. It's so slow. Let me know if this helps. -1, 0, 1, and there was so it's 0 because there was -1 up here. So it's 0. 0, 1. So it's just 1 because there's a wash up here. So +1. Still +1 because there was 2 washes and there was a 7, 8, or 9. So still +1, right? -1, wash, -1. -3 plus 1, -2, right? So -2, 0, I think it's 0, right? 0 plus 1, so still at 0. Wash, 1, 2, +2. So if I get it wrong, it's going to tell me +2. 1 minus 2 is -1, right? 1 minus 2 is -1. -1. Wash, -1 minus 2, -3. minus 3. This is the speed. This is 9 of 10 speed. I can't do 10 of 10. It's so fast. I lose track too quickly. So I think it's minus 3. Yeah, minus 3. Minus 3, and there was a minus 3 on the board. So minus 3 is minus 6. Is this too fast? I could slow it down because I know if you're not, well, I'm in front of the screen, so it might be easier. Let's do 7. So minus 6. So minus 6. This is a wash. Minus 1, minus 7, minus 8. So this is a bad count. We want to keep up at a minimum until it gets to a positive true count. And we're getting deep into the deck. So I think it starts with 6 decks. So there's probably like 2 decks left. So if the count got up to like a 4, then we'd be at a true count 2. But right now the count is negative. And when I was playing at the casino, when the count was negative, this deep in the shoe, sometimes I just forgot about it. I'm like, okay, the shoe is dead. And then I would go to I would just start talking to waitresses or talk to the people. I probably didn't need to talk so much. I felt like I had to blend in, and I was trying to play stupid, but probably didn't need to. So negative 8, wash, negative 8. It's so much harder at the casino though. Negative 8. Negative 9, wash, negative 10. This is a terrible count. So negative 10. This is a wash. Negative 11. I'll just show you. I'll put negative 10. It's negative 11, but I'll put negative 10 just to show you that if I get it wrong, it's going to tell me. See? Your answer's wrong. Negative 11. So negative 11. Negative 10. Well, that's a wash. Still negative 11. Minus 2. Minus 3. Negative 11 minus 3. See, it's not that straightforward, but I think negative 14. You just get used to doing it enough. Negative 14. Here's a wash. And minus 3. Negative 17. How long did it take you to get? I've just been doing it a week, and I'm not, no, maybe 2 weeks. But I mean, I was a math teacher for 10 years. So, I mean, I'm kind of have a math background, but that doesn't mean anybody can do this. It's real basic, 3rd grade, 4th grade math, maybe 4th grade, because 3rd grade, you didn't really get into negatives too much. The hard part is just keeping track. So negative 17. Negative 17. Ignore that. And there was negative 2 up there. Negative 19. But I look like I'm good at it. But at the casino, I just was totally lost. It took me like 3 hours to figure it out. I kept forgetting, and I kept not only I kept forgetting the numbers. I just forgot I had to count. Because maybe I shouldn't. I was in my head too much. But watching all those videos, people who said they got kicked out of casinos. So I was like, I'm trying to act like I'm not here. I'm just trying to have, like, I look like I'm having fun, like not like a serious. Because when you're card counting, it's all business. There's you just have to be there long enough to make money, because you will make money in the long run. So you can't think of it as like, oh, I got lucky this time, I got unlucky. But I guess the best card counters are the ones who don't look like they're counting. Negative 19, and that's just a +1. The whole table is a +1, so negative 18. But let me know if you have questions, and we can talk further. I could show you strategies. Negative 18. This is 3 right here, and that's a wash. So negative 18 plus 3 is negative 15. Negative 15. So negative 15 You ignore that. That's a 2. Negative 15. 3. Shit. And there was a wash up here. Shit. I can't remember what I did. I had was negative 18. I think it was positive 3. Negative 15. But it's either negative 15 or negative 14. I can't remember. You see that? I got it wrong. Okay. It's hard to talk. Okay, negative 11. Let me concentrate better. Negative 11. That's a wash. That's a wash. And I don't even, the 8, I just don't even see it. Now I can't remember what I was at now. What was I at? I'm talking too much. Was it negative 15? Did I start that round at negative 15 or negative 11? Negative 11, right? Yeah, negative 11. So negative 11 minus 3 minus 4. Negative 11 minus 4, negative 15. Okay. So it just shows me I got 4 wrong, 91% correct. The thing is, even if you were a perfect card counter, because there's 3 things you need to do to you guarantee to make money in blackjack. Memorize basic strategy and follow it. Don't like a lot of people at the table. And this is a common thing. Like if somebody gets a 16 or a 15, and the dealer has like a 7 or 8 or 9, a lot of people don't hit on that. They stand. This guy next to me, he was standing on 12s, 12 against 10. He was standing on that. And I'm like, you're not even giving yourself a chance. Because say you had a 15 and the dealer had an ace showing. Okay. Say the dealer had that. Next time I do a live stream, it'll be better because I have all this stuff set up. I'm spending all this time. I think the visuals really help. And some people don't think it works because they lose money and they think the reason they're losing money is because it doesn't work. It usually doesn't work if you make mistakes. Like you don't hit the right, you don't play perfect basic strategy, or you lose the count. Like you forget the count and you think you have to like bet this much, but you don't. That's the main reason people lose is they don't play correctly. But I'll tell you another way you can lose, even if you do everything perfectly. Because even if you do everything perfectly, you might lose if you play at a table or a casino that has bad odds. For instance, if you play at a table at a casino that doesn't pay 3-2 blackjack, it pays 6-5 blackjack, which a lot of casinos are doing now, you're going to lose money because that's a huge edge we have that's taken away. Or like some casinos have a rule the dealer can hit on a soft 17. Actually, the casino I played at, the dealer could hit on a soft 17, but but the main thing is they pay 3-2 for blackjack. So it's okay for them to hit a soft 17, but if they pay 6-5 blackjack and they can hit on a soft 17 and they don't allow you to surrender, all these kind of, even if you play well, you're going to lose. So you want to make sure you play at a table or a casino that has good rules. And I'm still learning this too. There's a few other kind of like variables. I'm almost done with this. Is anybody here for my stock market videos? Because I usually make stock market videos. This is the first time I'm doing blackjack. I want to go to a casino where and tape it, like them backing me off. Because it's not illegal to count cards. It's perfectly legal. Because there's been like court cases where people sued the casino because a casino kicked the guy out and wouldn't pay him. He had like, I don't know how much money in chips, say like a few $1,000s, and they kept it. And they said they kicked him out and they kept it. And they said, you can't count cards here. That's illegal. And the guy took the casino to court, and the judge said it's perfectly legal to use your brain and memory when playing cards. As long as you don't use a device or use some other strategy that cheats the casino. Like you can't have multiple people together doing something nefarious, but you're allowed to use your brain in a casino. Okay, so this is what I was saying. So say this was a situation. Dealer has an ace showing you have a 7 and an 8. So I don't know the odds, but like it's a pretty high chance you're going to lose the hand, no matter what you do, whether you hit or stand. There's probably like an 85% chance you're going to lose. I can't remember the exact numbers, but like hitting, you might have like an 80% chance of losing, which means 20% chance of winning. And if you stand, like you don't take another card, maybe you have like an 82% chance of losing. I don't know the exact. I'm just giving you an example, but this has been proven. Not to really back, but I bought 5 shares of DG in 2017 at $85. It went. What? Nice. I know, Blade. I know you watch our. Okay. I'll be right back in 1 minute. I gotta use the bathroom. So so they've done what they call the best way to prove like the probability of something is to do the Monte Carlo simulation. Like for example, to prove what are the odds of winning this hand if you stay. So what they do is they do like 1 million iterations of this hand, like an 8-7 versus ace. Randomize the deck of cards and show how many times you'd win and how many times you lose by staying versus hitting. And the odds are, I'm talking about if you're not counting, sometimes counting actually can change this chart, but I don't want to get too deep into it. Because if you had like a high true count of like 5 or 6, some of these would change. The probability does change. But I'm just talking about if you didn't count or if the true count was a 0. This is how you play basic strategy. So a lot of people will stand on 15 against an ace. The reason it's, and I understand why. So if you had say you did stand, right? Obviously, you don't know what's beneath the dealer's hole card. So you have no idea what's beneath the dealer's hole card. But we do know there's 13 cards in a deck, 13 numbered cards. Like an ace is one of those, 2, 3, up to king. So if the dealer flipped over their hole card, right, and there was a king, you would lose. I'm just showing you all the cards. If they flipped over the whole card, you automatically lose. So if the dealer flipped over their whole card, these 6 cards, you automatically lose by staying. Now there's 2, 4, there's 6 cards left. So let's say they had an ace and they flipped over another ace. Now the dealer has 2 or 12. So they would hit again. So that's what I'm saying. Like the odds are you're probably going to lose because they have so many chances to beat you, but you'll lose less if you hit. Was I going to say anything else about counting? So yeah, and these are the scenarios. Like if you have a 2 and a 2, you would split. If the dealer showed, these are the dealer's cards, so you would split or hit. So you just got to memorize the chart. It's actually, when I was at the casino, I had the chart with me in my pocket, and I would take it out. They don't actually mind that if you look at basic strategy, because they know they're going to win more in the long run if you follow basic strategy. They don't know you're counting. You can't let them know you're counting. I do sometimes play slots. Like I put a couple $100 in slots. The only reason I don't play really. I used to play poker a lot, and I stopped playing blackjack like a long time ago. I played last weekend, but before that, because I know the odds are against you. The only reason I play slots is because it's like it's really one of the few games you can play and win a lot of money. Like you can put $100 in and possibly win 20, 30, 40,000, even millions. You can't do that with blackjack. it's kind of like you win what you bet usually. So the excitement of just maybe winning like $1 million, and it's so out there, and I get that, but it's just more kind of like entertainment. But that's why I usually play slots. I'm probably not going to, because when I first got to the casino last week, I lost $200 in slots. It was 15 minutes. It took me to lose $200. And then I played blackjack for 6 hours, and I won 400. So I kept it. If I would have just kept it there, I would have won 400 and not just 200. Okay, so I think I exhausted everything I could say about blackjack. So that's really it's a simple strategy. It's just adding and subtracting, which is not hard to do. It's not hard to do in a short time period, but it's hard to do over a longer time period with distractions around you. Yeah, I don't I used to play blackjack. I actually played when I was 17. I met this guy on the Staten Island Ferry. We started we became friends. I used to intern. I interned at the World Trade Center before obviously it fell. And he was over 21. So he used to tell me about blackjack, and he had this whole strategy which didn't make sense, but at the time I thought it made sense. So he told me about his strategy, and he's like, just come to the casino with me. So we went to Atlantic City. I went like 4 times when I was 17. He said, just walk in with me because I know everybody there, because he talks to people and everything like that. He's like, they're not going to card you if they see you with me. So I was like, yeah, great. I did get kicked out once of the casino. We were at the table was hot. Everybody kept winning. It was a lot of fun. I don't think they thought I was counting, but I think they knew I was young. So they came up to me. I was there for a while already. He's like, can I see your ID? So they just kind of escorted me to the cashier. I cashed in my chips, and they escorted me out of the casino. It's funny. I worked at the World Trade Center right when it got bombed the first time, which is ironic. So in 1993, I was an intern, at 5 World Trade Center. As soon as I started working there, it got bombed, like right my very first week. That was the first time the World Trade Center got. Most people don't know about it. I think 8 people died. It was by the same people who on 9/11, the same group of people. So they put up a bomb on. I think it was 2 World Trade Center. I think by the subway tracks part, and it was just a lot of smoke, and we evacuated the building. So it wasn't like a big deal. A lot of people didn't even know what happened. It was just it was bad. People died obviously, but it's huge World Trade Center buildings. So I worked there the first time it got bombed. And then I was in high school too. I just ended high school, and I was going to right before I stayed in New York City for college my first year before I moved upstate, and then I worked. Then I went to college, and then I came home after I graduated. I came back, and in 2001, I worked in Midtown on 9/11. I didn't work in the World Trade Center, so I worked in Midtown when it got the bad bombing, when they knocked the buildings down. So I was in Fire World Trade Center. So I was in Midtown, 33rd. But we can see the buildings from from the window where we work. We could see it like coming down. So actually 5 World Trade Center didn't collapse. If you want some trivia or knowledge of 9/11, so on 9/11, there's 7 World Trade Centers. There were 7. So building 1 and 2, a plane hit building 1, and a plane hit. I think building 2 got hit, then building 1 got hit an hour later by the plane. So planes hit those 2 buildings. They fell down. Those 2 buildings. 7 World Trade Center. Because there was 5 smaller buildings and the 2 twin towers. So 7 World Trade Center collapsed from the debris from 1 and 2. World Trade Center 1 and 2, there was so much debris falling and hitting buildings and people and cars. So 7 World Trade Center collapsed because it stressed out the building too much and ended up collapsing, I think, that night. But 5 World Trade Center, I don't think any other buildings collapsed. I think 2 World Financial Center collapsed. But the other World Trade Center building didn't collapse, but they were so beat up from the debris, they ended up getting knocked down. I walked home. I mean, we had to walk home. So I was on 33rd Street on the west side, and I lived in Staten Island, so I had to walk to which is about a 90-minute walk to the ferry. The ferry was the only thing that was running. Like the subways weren't running because the subways were too some of the, obviously the World Trade Center station was shut down. But the good thing about the ferry is you can't really shut down a ferry. You can't like disrupt the water really. I mean, like the mass transit all over was shut down because of it was hard to get across the bridge. Everything was, but yeah, the ferry. But it was interesting, it was like a war zone. It really was like a war zone. There was a lot of smoke and debris and dust, and there was tons of people, especially downtown, because I had to walk downtown. That's where the ferry is. A lot of people, like cops and firemen, not just from New York City, from all over, from Connecticut, from probably Massachusetts. A lot were coming down. So they with Uzis, they just tons of people standing around. So it looked like a war zone. It really did. It was kind of hard to breathe. But yeah, so Fire World Trade Center, I was an intern at Credit Suisse. So the intern at Credit Suisse, the French bank, right? They're French. And while I was there, we bought First Boston. And that was in '93. So that's why it's called CSFB, Credit Suisse First Boston. So it's Credit Suisse is an investment bank. So I was working on the in the stock market on the trading floor. Okay, so I guess we'll talk about stocks because I don't think as many people came to. So how about the market? Credit Suisse is Swedish. You're probably right. It's Swiss. not Swedish, Switzerland. It's part of UBS now. Yeah. Credit Suisse. Or maybe what? Credit Suisse founder was a spiritual railway for his work. Yeah, it's Switzerland. French. Maybe I'm thinking of like BNP Paribas. I don't know. There's a couple of French investment banks. So it's close. You got the first letter, the S. So yeah. So one investment I'm killing it, and it's amazing, is Nubank. I'm up like 250% on Nubank. Yeah, UBS. Yeah, that's a good company. Yeah, I got New Holdings. I got it at like $4, like $4.25. Yeah, $4.24 in June 2022. That's my best investment percent-wise. It was like it IPO'd at $9, and that was in the end of 2021. It IPO'd. I got in June 2022 at $4.25. I think 380 was like the low point. So I didn't get it to low, but I got pretty close to the low. So I got lucky. I'm not going to say I knew it and I timed it right. I got lucky. I just happened to have some cash I wanted to invest, and I was looking for something a little different. And then that's when I invest in stocks, when I have money. And I don't invest in stocks when I don't have money. There's not like, I don't like sit on a pile of cash and watch these 10 stocks. And once they go down to a certain point, I buy them. No, if I have cash, I invest and I look at stocks, what I think is good value. Yeah, I don't know. Long run too. I'm not sure. Like it could crash. Could you imagine like all the people who had Zoom? It's so hard to sell stocks. A lot of stocks. Imagine you were like, you were smart enough to get into Zoom, say right when COVID hit. It was like 100. And you're like, okay, this is going to be a good stock. I didn't even really know about Zoom when COVID hit. And then it shot up to almost 500. But a lot of people didn't sell because it's hard to. It's when you make a lot of money, you feel like it's going to keep going up, and you don't know what to buy. You're like, what are you going to buy with it? I could understand if you and your wife were getting married, or you and your wife were having a kid, or we want to buy a home or something, and you needed the money. Then yeah, if it's high and you need money, then yeah, sell. But that's the thing. A lot of times I don't have something I need to buy. Once in a while, like when I bought Netflix, and I didn't even time it. I could have timed it better, but I wanted to buy Netflix for a while, and I was kicking myself because I didn't get it. I wanted to get it like in 2012. I wanted to buy it, and I didn't pull the trigger. And I'm like, and it just shot to the moon. In September 2021, it hit about 700, almost 700. And I was like, oh God, I would have made so much money. And I missed it. And I'm like, oh, I go, it didn't hit 700. Now it did for the first time ever, actually. But I bought it in my wife's account, and it hit it fell like almost 50% in January 2022. I bought it for 388. And then almost immediately, within 3 months, I'm down 50%. So I was like, it's hard to add when you're down a lot. It's hard. I've done that before. I've thrown money at a stock that goes down, and it kept going down. I've never done it, and I've won, and I made a ton of money. When I did it a few times, it just kept coming down. And maybe this time I should have done it, but I don't have infinite cash on me. So I went from 388 to 188. So I'm down like 50%. But now it's good. Now it's like up like 70% from my buy-in of 388. It's over 700. Yeah, you bought PayPal this year. They shot up during the pandemic, dropped back down below their Yeah, I know that's a rough one. Ackman sold out of Netflix in 2022 when they bottomed out. Yeah, I remember that. I remember when I bought Netflix. I think it was right around when Ackman bought Netflix, almost the same exact time. I think so. But I'm long term on Netflix. I like Netflix a lot as an investor, as a customer. I think they have a great product, a great business model, and I think they're kind of control streaming. And streaming is a big market. It's and it's a specialized kind of market. It's not like selling like sneakers. Sneakers is a huge market too, but you have a lot of people selling sneakers, and it's not expensive to sell sneakers. It's definitely not cheap, but it's really, really, really expensive to offer streaming. It's extremely expensive because it's so expensive to obtain content. Unless you're Disney and you already have a portfolio of like 1,000 or 10,000 films. If you're Netflix, you don't really own any content. Now they do. Now they've been making their own, but for a while they didn't own any content. They had to buy it. Like if they want to put Seinfeld on their platform, they have to give Jerry Seinfeld like $100 million. If they want to put Friends on their platform, they have to give them like $50 million. So it's expensive to really. And people say, why can't Apple just start offer streaming? And anybody can do anything, but it's rough. It's hard. It's a tough industry to compete in. And it's a great industry because it's really scalable. You know what I'm doing great in? I said this, Berkshire Hathaway. I was like a few years ago, I was like, they have so much cash, and there's going to be a lot of deals in the market, a lot of good deals, especially if the market drops. And the people who benefit the most are the ones with the cash. So I'm up like 160% on my Berkshire. Disney and HBO also make money renting their shows out. Yeah, exactly. That's why I bought Disney, and I was up like 50% at one point. Now I'm only up like 10% maybe. That's why I thought Disney was a good buy, because they own so much content. I don't know why it doesn't. Okay. I bought it, I think, August 2023. Yeah, I bought it. Yeah, I bought it here. August 2023, I got it for 86. I think it fell to like high 70s. So I timed it pretty well, I thought. It was at a 15-year low. And after a few months, I'm up like 40%. So I was happy, but it came back down. So I'm up now like maybe 10%. But I think it's a good long-term stock. I can't see Disney not doing well in the long term. They have a good business model, and it's one of those businesses again that it's hard to it's hard to like build theme parks. It's very expensive. It's not like, if you want to like if you want to like open a grocery store, it's not like you don't need like $50 million or $100 million to open a grocery store. You can, with $100K, you can get a grocery store up and running and then grow it with the cash flow. But but what do I know? These are just kind of like, that's how I felt. A good gambling game is to bet what company Buffett buys next. Yeah, he bought Ulta, right? Ulta Beauty, which is down since he bought it. I thought it was called Ulta. Wait, what? Isn't it Ulta Beauty? Oh, Ulta Beauty. Yeah, he bought that, and it hasn't done well since he bought it, which is interesting. I think when did Ulta Beauty stock dives after earnings miss. Buffett's Berkshire sees potential. Yeah, they didn't report good earnings. The stock came down. But since he bought it, it hasn't done well. But he's long term. What it does in a week or two doesn't really mean much. Retail stocks are tough. Yeah, I don't like retail too much. It's a tough one to turn a profit. And there's a lot of like running retail is getting harder and harder with people. People stealing so much lately, and then it's getting so expensive. Labor is getting so expensive. Even minimum wage is getting higher, and in some cities, minimum wage is almost $20 an hour. I don't know if I've ever done really well with a retail stock. Well, at Costco, I'm up a lot. That's retail. Well, it's a wholesaler, but it's kind of like a retailer. Berkshire. So what's his newest investments? He Japanese. He bought a few Japanese stocks. He's definitely trimmed down his Apple. We know that. He trimmed it down a lot. He's smart because he said yeah. What he said is something I didn't think about, but I think he's right. He's always fine with taxes. He's like, we're happy to pay our fair share of taxes. We don't mind paying 20 whatever % in taxes when we sell stock. So he had like, I can't remember, must have been like 50 billion, right? In Apple at the peak. Well, now it's 91 billion. Is this current portfolio 91 billion? Yeah, I think that's current. So I think he had like 400 billion in Apple. It's hard to look at this number. So this is 100,000. This is 100 billion. You could correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this is what okay. This is his original investment, what he had like a year ago. Because he sold it in 2 stages, like 2 straight quarters he sold off. Sold current. I mean, I could be wrong, but Apple value. So he had like 500 billion of Apple maybe a year ago, sold off 400 billion over the past year. So I think I think he would pay 20% long-term capital gains. So 80 billion in taxes. So he said it's likely that taxes will go up. He said, as a country, we have more debt than ever. Someone's going to have to fund the debt, and it tends to be wealthy people or investors, or somebody has to pay, and it's people with money have to pay it. People who don't have money can't pay it. So he sold 400 billion of Apple. He paid 80 billion in taxes. He said, if I was to sell my Apple in a few years from now, it's likely taxes will be higher. And for example, it could be 30% in long-term capital gains. So he saved us $40 billion by selling it now instead of selling it in a few years. Because there is a decent chance that it's not going to go up that much in a few years. It's one of the most expensive stocks in the world. And I don't know how much more room it is to grow. I could see, I understand, and if I'd be more understanding if Nvidia grew, because they're in that stage. Apple is a little more mature of a company. You concerned about Buffett selling half of that? No, I think it's a good sell. I think it's really smart. Not at all. He made a ton of money because it's hard to invest. Like he says, I could get a 50% return annually on $1 million. But when you give me $100 billion, I can't get a 50% return because he can't buy more than 100% of a company. And he wouldn't want to own 100% either. So he can only buy stakes in companies. He generally doesn't want to buy more than 10% of a company. So it's hard to invest in a company and make a huge return, like a 4 or 5x return. But he did that with Apple. What was his return? Probably like 8 or 9x. If they pass that unrealized gain tax, which I don't think they will, he might be hoarding money for that. That's a good point. But I don't think they could do that. It's too it would really it would be real problematic for the market if they forced everybody to pay unrealized gains. because the only way you can pay those unrealized gains is by selling stock. So it would have a huge kind of trickle down effect. Well, tons of people are selling stock just to get the money to pay the taxes on the gains. So Apple still has biggest position. It used to be like 50% of its portfolio. Now it's 28%. Amex, he owns 21% of Amex. B of A, 11%. Coke, 9%. Chevron. He's been buying a lot of Oxy, right? The past 5-6 years. He keeps. Nancy Pelosi, politicians, they get special treatment. Yeah. They're a different animal. Moody's, Kraft. I lost on Kraft. I lost like 20-30%. Chubb. He likes insurance, banks. Apple is normally not in his wheelhouse, and it turned out to be his best investment. Not percent wise, in dollar terms. Percent, he's probably like Coca-Cola or something because he bought it like so long ago. DaVita, that's an insurance company. Oh, healthcare. But he got these Japanese stocks. I guess they're Mitsubishi Bank. Mitsubishi Motors. But I thought he owned he definitely owned Japanese banks. Mitsui, that's something. Mitsui is the bank. Sumitomo is a bank. Amazon. He doesn't own that much Amazon. Only 0.1% of Amazon. But he probably has a good return on that. I wish they showed the cost basis. That would be interesting. Sirius. He hasn't done that well in Sirius. You would do currency trading? I saw that yen traders got hurt by Japan's central bank cutting interest rates. No, I don't really do currency trading. Japan, the yen is really it's crazy. Hey Kevin, what's up? For the longest time, it used to be about 90. The yen used to be like between 80 and 110. Meaning 100 and it used to be around 100 yen is $1 US. For it seemed like forever. Okay, so in 2000 it was 100. It did get up to 130 in 2002, but it came down to 80. So even up to 2021, it was only at 110. In 2015, it did get a little high at 120, but look how high it's gotten, the yen. It broke through 160. it gets a little confusing when you try to look at currencies. It's easier to kind of like. So I always thought. So 100 yen is $1 US. That was for a long time. That was the average for like a couple decades. And now it's been closer to 150 for $1 US. So if you wanted to buy say you wanted to buy a car. Let's do it. Let's say you wanted to buy real estate, Japanese real estate. So you wanted to buy a $200,000 home in Japan, right? So they have the symbols right here. Okay, I didn't. So say in the year 2000 or something, you wanted to buy a 200,000. It was equivalent to 200,000 US. It would cost you 20 million yen. Well, let's just do because I don't want to pick too far of a time frame because then prices of real estate change so much over 10, 15 years. So we'll do 2021 because it's a lot closer in time. So let's say you wanted to buy a home in Japan. It costs 200,000 US. So you have to pay in yen. So you send 20 million yen to buy it. But say just a year later, the yen is now 150. So how am I doing? Okay. Okay, so that's how you do it. Okay. So 20 million yen. So the same home is still 20 million yen. Okay, so that's the conversion. Okay, so it gets confusing, right? So in 2021, 100 yen is $1 US. So if you wanted to buy a home in Japan, it costs you 200,000 US. But in Japan, you have to pay in yen. So they say if you want to buy this home, 20 million yen. So you send them $200,000. But if you just waited a year, not that you would have known this, but if you waited a year, assuming the house is still 20 million yen, look how much cheaper it is, $133,000. So it's cheaper for us in the US to buy Japanese goods, but it's much more expensive for people in Japan to buy American goods because they're not getting as much bang for their buck. I heard tourism in Japan is very popular right now because it's so cheap there compared to America. Yeah, this just shows you get a lot more. Like everything's a lot lower. So if you went on vacation in Japan, if you spent like 10,000 on vacation last year, the same exact vacation would cost you 6,000. Because of the currency. I had a guy on here once. We did a live stream. We were talking about it. I can't remember what he said. He made a good point about the devaluation of the yen. I can't remember what he said. But yeah, but what it must be doing the worst in the past. It's really in the past, pretty much 2.5 years, and it's gotten better, but it got up to 160. But what other currency is doing? We can compare them. You can compare it on here. Okay. Yen to US dollar. I don't think. I don't know how to compare it this way, but anyways, this is the new Yahoo Finance website. I'm having a little hard time trying to. Well, Argentina, they always there's always been a problem in Argentina. The currency is really, they have a terrible economy. They're always having problems. Yeah, I remember I went there. I remember in 2012. It's so cheap. It's a great place to visit if you want to get a lot for your dollar. It's actually getting more expensive to go there, because I remember when I was there, it was like, I think it was like 20 pesos for $1 US. Well, maybe less. This chart, it looks like it's even less. Now it's 50 pesos for $1 US. So it's more expensive for us, less expensive for them. Yeah, I went in 2012. Well, it was like 5. The Argentine peso has jumped 25% in 3 months against the dollar. Still hasn't dollarized the economy as promised, but he has managed to do something that's possibly more shocking: strengthen the peso. I mean, it's how come I don't show on Yahoo Finance? Well, the Argentinian peso really strengthened against the dollar. It's not worth. Here it is. It's ARS. I can't figure out the new Yahoo Finance, but well, I think the opposite, Blade. It looks like the peso's really strong. Well, it's strengthened a lot compared to the US dollar. If I'm reading this right. Maybe am I reading it wrong? Maybe the peso has fallen 16% year to date in 2023. It tumbled 44%. The government is on its. Why do they do it this way? Okay. $1 US, 950 pesos. Okay, so oh no, so it's weakening. It's weakening. Okay, I was reading it backwards. $1 US. Yeah, it gets a little confusing currencies, but yeah, so you can buy a ton of pesos for US dollar, but it's so expensive. Like in 2012, for instance, it may have cost like, I don't know, 10,000 pesos for a car. Now it's like 500,000 pesos because it's so because inflation. What are your thoughts on these Yield Max ETF products? Yeah, I don't really I don't know. I usually don't. Those things are too volatile. I like a little more safety. A lot of those investments, you have to kind of like really watch it. I don't want to sit on I want something I can just kind of like sit back and let it grow and not worry about like these huge dips. But so I don't usually go for it. But okay. Well, thanks for joining. the blackjack counting thing. If you were watching it from the beginning, I've been making shorter videos, so the views aren't as good with the shorter videos. So I'm hoping things kind of rebound. For like a week or so, I was losing subscribers. Like I was getting -3, -7, a lot of negatives. But I guess people just don't like the shorter videos. But it's getting back to positive again. So hopefully it starts growing. But you know, this YouTube thing is hard. Okay, thanks a lot. I'll talk to you later. Have a good one.